Sir Desmond Stirling in Dread Rocks Holiday, Part 2.
Yes, it was old Jethro, the salty cove who'd rowed me to the lighthouse the previous day. He was soaked through, and his eyes were wild. He opened his mouth, and seawater cascaded out onto the floor. "Can I help you?" I asked politely. He raised his hand to his mouth and retrieved a fish. He flung it to the floor where it flapped, frantically gasping.
"I brought your provisions,"
he growled. "It's the middle of the night," I said incredulously. "It could have waited until daylight."
I had to come,"
he gasped. "Well, top marks for diligence, old chap, but minus points deducted for common sense. Now, why don't you get back in your boat and—" Something bothered me. I pushed past old Jethro and looked at the lighthouse jetty. There was no sign of a boat. "Now, I don't want to alarm you," I informed him, "but your boat seems to have disappeared." The storm was howling, so I closed the main door to keep out the violent squall.
I bain't come by boat,"
he whispered. "Then how the dickens did you—" Jethro suddenly seemed to actually look at me.
"Here, why bain't you got any clothes on?"
I puffed out my firmly proportioned chest. "Because, sir, I am a proud nudist, and if a chap can't be starkers in his own lighthouse, where can he be starkers?" Jethro shrugged and started to unbutton his jacket. It's not compulsory," I hastily added.
"I be soaked through,"
he said, and continued to divest himself of his clothes. "Fair enough," I replied. "I'll get you a blanket." I must admit that I was feeling pretty brass monkeys myself by now, so the pair of us ended up sitting around the stove wrapped in old blankets seemingly stitched together from shredded wheat. I poured us a tot of whiskey each, and slowly old Jethro dried out. He was a hairy chap, and I was fascinated by how his huge tangled beard seemed knitted into his chest hair. Old Jethro knocked back his whiskey, well, mine actually, and handed his glass to me. I assumed he wanted more, but I wasn't prepared to indulge him until he'd supplied me with some answers. "What on earth made you come all the way out to Dread Rocks Lighthouse in the middle of the night during what can only be described as a bitch of a thunderstorm, eh?" I interrogated him. His face fell as another whiskey wasn't immediately forthcoming. He paused, and then said,
"The voice told me to."
"Voice? What voice?" He looked at me, scared.
"I be woken by the sound of a woman's voice. Beautiful it were, and she bade me go to the lighthouse and don't delay."
"Did she give you any reason, this so-called beautiful voice?" I failed to keep my scepticism out of my own voice.
"She said he be in danger."
"Is that so? From whom, may I ask?"
"She bain't say."
I resisted the urge for my eyebrow to raise wryly. "And how were you to rescue me from this danger?" He shrugged.
"Take ye back to the mainland."
"Ah." I poured him another small, very small, tot of whiskey. He swallowed it in one gulp, didn't even touch the sides. No more of the good stuff for him. "And how," I asked him, "were you to bring me back to the mainland without a boat?" He didn't answer. My patience was wearing very thin. "No more shilly-shallying. I want some answers from you, old Jethro. You must have come here by boat, so where is it now?"
"I told ye, I bain't come by boat,"
he replied sulkily. I felt sorely tempted to boot this wizened old Matterlow out of the door, storm or no storm, and let him find his own way back to the mainland, boat or no boat. "So," I asked between clenched teeth, "how did you get here?" "It's a long way to swim in the best of conditions, never mind while Father Neptune is churning up the waves. Perhaps you parachuted from a passing biplane, or rode here on the back of an obliging squid." Old Jethro said nothing. He lifted his hand to his ear, tugged his matted hair away, and turned his head to the left. To my bewilderment, there, behind his ear, pulsating rhythmically, was a gill.
To be continued. Sir Desmond Stirling in Dread Rocks Holiday was written and performed by Anthony Keetch.